It's so boring.
How does that work? Where does that expression come from? It doesn't make any sense.
Make it stop.
Okay, hold on. I'm doing too much. I'm doing way too much. A very happy Halloween to all y'all out there. You know, as always, we have our costume. I'm Deadpool. If you can't already tell, you ain't getting a full body angle. This is the best it's gonna get. So we're gonna do something a little different this year. I know I normally play a scary game, but I decided I wanna actually react to one of these kill counts. This one is gonna be on the very first not the reboots, but the very first one from the 90s. And I low-key might have to take this mask off because as I'm talking, it's getting hot in here. But anyways, don't waste too much time. I'm kind of tired, but I still want to produce y'all some content for y'all. And excuse me, that was disgusting.
Welcome to the Kill Count, where we tally up the victims in all our favorite horror movies. I'm James A. Janice, and today we're looking at the miniseries version of Stephen King's It, which was aired in 2 parts on ABC in 1990. Originally conceived as an 8 to 10 hour television epic, writer Lawrence D. Cohen was forced to whittle it down to a mere 3 hours. A difficult task, given the source material was an 1,100-page novel. Look at this thing! It tells the story of a group of middle school-aged outcasts called the Losers Club in the small town of Derry, Maine. They experience terror and torment at the hands of Pennywise the Dancing Clown, an embodiment of the evil force haunting Derry. 30 years later, Pennywise returns to plague the town once more, stealing kids and eating them up, so the Losers Club is forced to regroup in order to try and vanquish the evil force once and for all. Although Tim Curry's portrayal of Pennywise is the most memorable part of this production, the story of It is one of King's finest, a poignant tale of making friends, coming of age, and facing your demons. Of course, you can't really face your demons if you get killed by an evil clown. And how many people end up becoming victims of Pennywise? Well, let's find out and get to the kills. The movie begins with scrapbook photos and some opening credits that pimp out Tim Curry's appearance, as they should since he's the reason we're all here. A picture of a theater fades from 1960 into 1990, the present time for the adult storyline in the film. A little girl named Lori Ann is riding her trike as a storm approaches, but before she can get back inside, she sees something by the clothesline. What are you seeing there, little girl? Oh, just the creepy-ass clown. Cool.
Is she smiling at it?
Scarier, and then charges at Lori in a first-person shot, killing her off-screen. Just a heads up as we start off here, a lot of the kills are done this way. It's a little unsatisfying, but probably a result of the miniseries.
Bro, I mean, this movie already scary enough. You don't need to show kills.
Release of the new It coming out.
Speaking of movies, y'all, I watched this one movie called Hellraiser the other day. Do not watch it. Don't watch the first one. Hellraiser with Pinhead, disgusting. Now, if you want to see some gore,
to Mike Hanlon.
That's too much for me, but if you like that, then you can check it out.
Who was the dad in Sister, so that's fun. Apparently, there's been a string of kids disappearing or winding up dead, and Mike thinks it's terrible.
There's something terribly wrong here in Derry.
Absolutely terrible. After getting dismissed by the police chief, Mike notices a picture sitting by a tree, and it's not just a child actor's headshot. It's a little boy he recognizes as someone named Georgie. He takes to his diary to tell the audience that he's freaking out, man, over the
looking
picture
familiar now.
And that it's time to get the band back together. So let's meet our ensemble cast. First up, hanging out in this mansion in England is Bill, a horror writer rocking an awful ponytail who's busy working on screenplay. Part of Bill's purpose is to be an extremely obvious stand-in for Stephen King himself.
If they're gonna hire somebody to mangle one of my books, might as well
Stephen King or Stephen King?
Dinner with his lovely wife Audra, an actress set to star in the picture he's working on. With their meals interrupted by a phone call from Mike, who tells him quite plainly, "It's back."
Sure.
And yeah, it also brings back Bill's childhood star. Even more traumatizing for Bill is when Mike mentions Georgie's name, which triggers a flashback for Bill and our first extended look at the movie's other timeline. One day in 1960, when Bill was sick, he gave his little brother Georgie a paper boat to go mess around with. It actually looks like a pretty fun time for a little kid, chasing a toy boat as it sails down the street along the curbside. But fun times go south when the boat slips into the gutter. As Georgie's looking down after it, the clothesline clown pops up. They have a great conversation that's worth the price of admission alone, since Tim Curry is and always will be magnificent. Georgie tells the clown he can't talk to strangers, so the clown goes ahead and solves that little problem.
I, Georgie, am Pennywise the Dancing Clown. You are Georgie.
Bro, that looks creepy.
Pennywise invites Georgie to come hang with him in his subterranean clown spot, but it takes a lot of coaxing to convince him, including the promise of balloons.
Do they float? Oh, yes. They float. Georgie.
That's enough to get Georgie to reach down for his boat, at which point Pennywise gets weird.
You float!
Pennywise grabs his arm and goes to eat the camera, and that's the way that Georgie crumbles for our second kill of the film. Later, we hear how his arm was torn off, which is pretty friggin' badass. But again, most of these kills are gonna be off screen like this. Sorry. After the funeral, Bill looks through a photo album and gets freaked out when a picture of Georgie winks at him. People forget that pictures moving like that was creepy as hell before Harry Potter came along and made it magical. But not even the boy who lived could make spontaneously photo albums not creepy. And what's worse is that Bill has no one to talk to about the changes he made.
I don't think I could watch this after watching the reboot. The reboot, that takes it to another level. I watched chapter 1 of the reboot, but not chapter 2. I don't know if I want to. That thing was pretty scary.
Himself that he had forgotten everything that had happened back then. He goes to leave despite his wife's protestations, who says she's willing to go with him.
Protestation bit?
Go and gives her a very forceful hug. Now on to New York City, where John Ritter is a drunk architect.
Now how the heck you gonna terrorize people in New York City? That's such a large city, dude.
Even if he's not exactly responsible with them. And let me just say, I miss John Ritter a lot. He's having a great time right now, though, chilling with his Time magazine cover and playing drunken rich guy grab ass with his lady friend. He starts telling her about how he used to be fat, but just like with Bill, a phone call interrupts him. Mike tells him it's come back and asks how much he remembers.
Very little.
Mike then asks Ben if he'll keep his promise to return to Derry. Ben agrees to, but he don't look happy about it. He gives his lady the hand because it's 1990, then goes to a skyscraper to have a drunken flashback. Ben was the new kid in town who wasted no time falling for this quiet girl in class named Beverly Marsh, and who also wasted no time falling victim to some post-war bullying by the class greaser Henry Bowers. Putting air quotes every time I say
he
Ben
looked like
that, by the way.
Tobey Maguire, kinda.
Henry gets detention and blames Ben, so after school when Ben's walking home, he gets harassed by Henry and his crony greasers, Vic and Belch. Yes, that kid's name is Belch. That's why. Henry tries to carve his name into Ben's stomach, but Ben kicks him away and tumbles down a hill into an area called the Barrens, eventually hiding in a pipe while the greasers pick on Bill and his tiny asthmatic friend, Eddie Kasprak. After the greasers leave, the three losers bond over tossing rocks into water, because that's what kids did before they had endless hours of cat videos.
Okay, but this scenery looks amazing though. Where is that?
After his cousin teases him about a love letter he's writing for Bev, he returns to the Barrens and is shocked to find the waving image of his late father who was killed in Korea. Turns out his dad's relocated.
That's my home now, son!
God, it always makes me sad to see a dad get a shitty new place after a separation. Can't be too sad though, he's got balloons. And guess what? They all float. Oh, and also, he's a clown. Pennywise disappears and then Ben dodges a mossy bone hand from a nasty skeleton guy and tells Ben that he'll float down there. Not sure where exactly they keep talking
What's up
about,
with this float stuff, bro?
Underground zero-G simulator? The flashback ends.
Like, why did they decide
let's blast on over
start
to
going with the
Chicago
float?
to meet up with Bev, who's a successful
Trying to say your soul gonna float when they go up?
Stereotypical 80s businessman whose favorite movie is definitely Wall Street for all the wrong reasons. This guy is a super doucher.
Bevy, don't ever contradict me in front of Pam again, okay?
So he probably won't be the most understanding when Bev gets a call from Mike later that night. In fact, when he comes back and finds her packing, he gets so obsessed
look
that
at
he
his
straight up
shorts, bro.
slaps her in the face.
Damn.
And threatens her with a belt. Bev knows getting back to Derry is super important though, so she throws shit at him and leaves. In the taxi ride to the airport, she has her own little flashback to her childhood in 1960.
Bro, I don't know how y'all dressed like this in the 80s. This was not it. Now I can't vouch for the style today because it's also not it, but this is way worse.
Slap her in the face.
Damn.
Man, can people stop slapping Bev in the face for just like 5 minutes, please? She runs away from her dad and Ben comforts her, then takes her to the Barrens to meet Eddie and Bill. Ooh, she liked Bill. Then they're joined by two more losers. Richie Tozier is played by Seth Green and is the kind of guy who's probably funny for like 5 minutes, then just a real drag to be around. The other dude is Stanley Uris, an uptight Jewish kid who wears that scout uniform a lot. I don't know, maybe it helps him get the
Boy Scout, bro.
They bond over a montage where they build a dam together out of
I remember I did Boy Scouts one year.
Parts, I guess. And by the end of it, their dam is
I never went
successful, and
camping
they
though,
learn the
but
power
I
of
was a part of it
friendship,
at
and
my
they're free to
church.
splash around in what surely must be disease-ridden still water. On the way home,
Bro, wasn't the monster in that water the last time? They just went right back to it?
Thinking Bill
Foolish.
Sorry about your luck, Ben. When Bev's getting ready for bed that night, she hears a few voices coming from inside the sink saying that everything floats down there. Who's down there, you might ask?
I'm Vicky Burrows. I'm Matthew O'Connor. We're all the dead kids.
Yep, all the dead kids. Every last one, I guess.
There's only one.
The balloon inflates and blows up and it splatters blood everywhere. But when Bev gets her dad to come help her, it doesn't look like anything to him. The blood-spurting sink warns Bev that she'll die if she tries to fight Pennywise, and she sinks to her bathroom floor just in time for a match cut back to the present. Still got 3 losers to go, so on to New York, where a grown-ass Eddie is on his way out the door, having gotten the call from Mike off.
Okay, I like how they doing now. They have flashbacks
Dairy for him, but Eddie takes off in
like
a limo
within the movie
he owns, ready to match cut his way back to
a little time skips.
His flashback takes place in the Paramount.
1960. Damn, they
where the
old.
losers watch the Wolfman.
That's 30 years
After
later.
Eddie accidentally kicks his popcorn over the balcony onto Henry and the other greasers, Richie takes them all to the danger zone by purposefully pouring his soda all over their heads. The losers run away from the theater, giddy over their guerrilla strike against the bullies, and Eddie says he's having the time of his life until his mom comes out and shoos his friends away. She reminds him not to shower at school because of germs, but the gym teacher tells him he needs to so he won't be a smelly boy. Eddie heads to the showers by himself, and the faucets start taking on a mind of their own,
Bro, come on.
and expanding
This is the worst way to get exposed, bro.
Eddie and blocking
in the shower.
Then things get even weirder when clown hands start coming out of the drain. Pennywise
oh no, that's creepy, dude.
And pops out of it like some kind of evil clown Diglett. He teases Eddie for a while before putting on his scary face. Oh boy, Tim Curry, you are one scary evil fucking clown, dude.
No, seriously, bro.
Like, that's enough of that shit, and we dissolve back into the present to wrap up Eddie's relatively short flashback. Next loser up is Richie.
But how did he survive though?
He thought he was obnoxious as a goofster.
Because in the new movie, Pennywise killed everybody. Like they don't spare nobody.
And it doesn't get much worse.
But it seems like all these people encountered him, but they were able to live. So is it really kills?
But Mike's phone call brings back memories so upsetting he slides all up next to his toilet to pray.
So is he gonna try to like attack them now that they're older? Because from my understanding, Pennywise only attacked children.
They talk about what they want to be when they grow up, and Billy looks like he's gonna tell them about the bloody photo album. But then a super Irish cop interrupts them and tells them they should always stick together because kids be disappearing, yo. They put their hands.
Isn't that his dad that passed away?
They'll be safe. Hard to stay safe at school when you've got murderous greasers about, though. Richie manages to keep his spirits up.
Larry, Curly, and Mo. Beep, Richie.
And even follow up his soda trick with some lunch food to the chest. He runs into a teacher who demands he clean up his mess, but when Richie goes to the basement to get a mop, he's greeted by a freaking werewolf. The werewolf costume doesn't look great, but you know, just pretend it looks awesome, and maybe you can imagine the terror Richie's supposed to be feeling right now. As Richie's running away, the werewolf turns into Pennywise.
Beep, beep, Richie.
Who plays that hit single of his that everyone always loves to hear.
They all flow down here.
Then he gets all creepy sexy on Richie. Although to be fair, anything Tim Curry does is sexy, so I'm not even sure he was.
Alright, what's up with this man's hunch with Tim Curry? Like, what's going on, bro?
Back to 80s stand-up comic Richie. Back in the
so Pennywise was not killing him.
And decides
he was just scaring him.
A flashback of his own. So he reminisces about the time he was giving a presentation in class on the historical disasters that have befallen Derry. Here's the ire of Henry Bowers and his new expanded.
Okay, now they gonna pick on a black kid. That's just
so they chase him down the street.
I'm about to say that makes sense.
Gravel pit construction area. Here the other losers are hanging out and talking about how they've all seen Pennywise now, except for Scout Trooper Stan, who's skeptical of the whole situation. Stan's too logical for this kind of thing.
Such a thing just isn't empirically possible.
But the others
empirically possible. I don't even know what that means. I'm a senior in college.
For help, they defend him from the greasers by throwing rocks at him. Nothing like a good old-fashioned rock fight to really get the juice.
Okay, but is Pennywise not attacking the greasers though?
Before they could just get in.
Because they look like they're all around the same age.
They scare the bullies away, but not before Henry promises to kill them all someday. Mike officially joins their club, and they become 7.
Lucky 7.
They take a group picture together to commemorate the formation of their group, and honestly, I took a very similar group picture with my nerdy friends back in high school at a construction yard.
Yo, get this off my screen.
Yeah, I'm the one with the center part in the Star Wars shirt. The kids go
to
the
Mike's photo
album and find drawings of Pennywise from 200 years ago in Derry. They also drop the title in this scene.
It's not a man. It.
And the pages freak out, and another still comes to life with Pennywise running up to the kids and telling them he'll kill them all and that he's everything they've ever been afraid of. He reaches out to grab them, and it's way too much for Stan, who shuts the album and tries to deny what they all just saw. He finally admits that he saw it, but he's reluctant to join in the club's call to action to do something about it. But after Bill gives
of course, old bitch
for them all to help him kill it, they huddle up in a friendship hug and agree. Mike wakes up from his flashback, and his section ends with a scary balloon pop. Spooky.
Okay, so what's the name is back?
You know, there's only one more loser to meet, so we head to Atlanta, Georgia, where Stan is living a very comfortable life.
Hey, he in the A, that's where I'm at.
Clark the dog handler in The Thing. Looks different without a beard or a bullet in his forehead. He gets the phone call from Mike, but Stan's real freaked out and says he can't promise he'll make it back to Derry with the rest of them. He leaves his wife to go upstairs and run a bath, and yep, you guessed it, match cut his way back to 1960. The Lucky 7 are practicing with a slingshot, shooting at cans and glass bottles in a creek because that's what kids did before they had
promethazine in the front, bro.
Shooters to play. They all suck at it except Bev, who shoots a
he looked like Macaulay Culkin.
Designated the party's ranged attacker.
She looked like
magical items, some solid
that one girl from Cheaper by the Dozen.
As long as they believe in it, those babies can kill Pennywise.
He looked like I'm stopped.
Leveled up,
doing
kids
too much.
head to the sewers, stopping only to reaffirm their friendship with a bunch of puffs on Eddie's inhaler. Although Stan is kind of
y'all doing
the
vapes?
last one to do it. Stan? They head inside, unaware that Henry and his cronies are watching them, ready to follow them in and make sure they never come back out. Kids killing other kids, you know.
They performing guerrilla warfare
before internet. Inside the sewer, Henry launches a plan that involves Vic going off by himself to corral the kids into an ambush by Henry and Bell.
I'm gonna get that hairstyle. I'm gonna cut my hair and I'm gonna get that slick back hairstyle. You heard it here first.
Towards where he's standing.
That's clean.
Popping out of a grate and coming at him for another POV kill, getting all up in his face with them bright lights, kind of like a cop waving a flashlight in a drunk driver's face. The kids venture.
So an hour later, we finally got another kill. But this is a 3-hour-long movie, so I'm glad I ain't watched the whole thing.
He burped. It gets me every time. Henry takes his knife and starts picking off Stan's buttons, but before he can get super psycho murder greaser on him, that bright light be coming down the pike again, and it's headed straight towards those kids. Oh shit! It bursts out of the pipe, knocking knocking away Henry and Stan and sucking up Belch back into the pipe. Belch gets folded in half and pulled into the pipe for a bloodless yet still pretty eerie kill, the fourth of the movie and the first
what the heck is this, bro?
On screen. The light comes back and pops out of the pipe to say hello to the boys again, but Stan's smart enough to GTFO while Henry's dumbfounded. We don't get to see what he does, but whatever it is, it scares him enough to turn his hair white. The light ignores him for now though, opting instead to chase Stan down the tunnels as he runs to reunite with his friends. They huddle up together and fall to the ground as the light approaches them and passes overhead, where we get a glimpse of the thing's bright light underbelly. I don't know guys, that might just be a TMNT float with some sick LEDs on it. It might be okay. After it passes over them,
I'm so glad I didn't watch this, bro. This looks too corny for me.
And then all the kids start seeing things that scare them, like a little dead Georgie for Bill, abusive Papa Marsh for Beverly, and some manicured werewolf claws for Richie. Stan tries to find his center by repeating the scout oath to himself a whole bunch of times, but that doesn't stop Pennywise from appearing out of nowhere and then kidnapping poor Stan away from
okay, that'll probably get me right there.
You all taste so much better when you're afraid.
And laughs at their threat to kill him because, as he says, he's eternal and the eater of worlds. Right as he goes to nom down on Stan though, Eddie steps up to the plate to be a hero.
This is battery acid, you slime!
Believing makes it real, so Pennywise's face starts melting off and Bev takes her one shot. Do not miss your chance to blow, Bev. She doesn't. She hits him in the head, causing a bright light to shine out. But before she can get off a second shot for a confirmed kill, Pennywise flip jumps his way to freedom, hopping straight into a train with a special effect that doesn't quite hold up. Sorry.
What the heck is that?
Bill grabs his hand in an attempt to keep him from escaping, but the hand becomes a claw and Pennywise gets away. The kids have no choice but to hope that they did enough damage to kill it, so they leave despite Bill's desire to follow it. Outside the sewer, Bill makes them all swear an oath
that if it isn't dead, we'll come back.
One by one, the kids all put their hands in and swear allegiance, although Stan takes a while and is the last to do so. Stan's really not coping with this whole thing that well, guys. A point that's proven when we jump back to 1990 and his wife comes upstairs to find him in the bathtub with his wrist slit. Stan has killed himself, simply too terrified and unwilling to face Pennywise once more.
Stan, are you serious, bro?
Part 1 of It concludes with his wife screaming in anguish.
Stan, are you serious, bro?
The miniseries aired in 2 parts back in 1990.
This man really committed suicide because of a clown? You already defeated it one time. How are you afraid again? You already defeated him. You know his weakness. You grown man. No, I'm just playing. Everybody copes differently. But yes, that is part one. I'm not going to do both because I don't want the video to be too long. But I at least wanted to get on here and produce some sort of content because it was Halloween, even though I really didn't feel like it. So of course, you know, as always, I'll try to make this a more consistent thing, like these kill counts, because they are pretty interesting. This is the first time I've actually watched one. No, that's a lie. I watched one years ago. But as always, if you all enjoyed the video, I ask you all to like, share, and subscribe. I'll see you all in the next part. Take it easy. Peace. Happy Halloween, y'all.